That's outrageous.
I guess we'll do it that way.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
Oh, John. Here
I
we
feel
are.
like I'm doing a podcast with my uncle. Uncle Larry.
Ira and the douche. That was one of the best parts of Parks and Rec. Crazy Ira and the douche. So, John, here we are.
Hit me.
It's February 3rd.
2020. Coronavirus sweeping the world.
God, what the? Is it though?
I don't know.
Isn't the regular flu probably killing more people?
Way more.
Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah. We've got a media problem, says me, imitating Rush Limbaugh.
Who just announced he has stage 4 lung cancer.
Oh, did he?
Ouch.
That's very sad. It's always sad when someone suffers. I don't care who they are, even if I disagree with their politics. Cancer's a bummer.
Sure.
But also, Rush.
You know,
Nah.
I have mixed feelings
not my
about
guy.
him. I have mixed feelings about
I'm
him.
sure he's a good. Yeah, I'm sure he's a good host. But also, Rush, get that shit out of
He
here.
almost, though, like, nowadays,
Get that shit out of
with the
yeah,
internet, he seems
Yeah.
totally prosaic. Like, he's
yeah.
a light. I mean, he's not a lightweight. He is a heavyweight still.
With the boomers.
With the boomers, for sure. But his brand seems so tepid now. You know, guys like,
Yeah.
you know, Breitbart, Alex Jones even would fit into this to some extent. Like, they're so far beyond the pale that Rush seems like quaint.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Well, I think we've given Rush enough of our precious airtime. It's time. It's time. John, we haven't done an episode of doing finance with John and Zay and stuff lately.
You think it's
How do you think Soup Q's doing?
oh my god.
How's our Soup Q stock doing?
Oh my gosh, Soup Man. I totally
Soup Q.
totally forgot about Soup Q.
That's a shout out for our longtime listeners.
Wow.
Ooh, man, there's not a lot going on, it looks like.
Oh, we could buy the entire
Soup Man
company.
Inc.
The market cap is like as much as a house.
Yeah, it's gone down a lot.
What happened?
It's I don't know, something. You know, I was just thinking, and before I looked it up, I was like, you know, we really screwed up because we didn't really ever turn a profit, so we could never actually buy any CQ stock, right? And I was like, what if we look it up and it's gone up significantly? And now I'm looking it up, and the Soup Q share is worth about 0.007 of a cent.
That's a bargain, baby.
So we really dodged a bullet. You know, we could have invested all of
it's time to buy.
You know, that is also very true.
We could seriously run a pump and dump on this puppy.
You know, we could probably make, what do you think, like $10-$20 by dumping
At
the
least.
entire yeah.
Maybe 40 if we're really lucky. $40.
I think, but here's the question, John. Where do we get the $20 to buy all the stock in the first place?
Yeah. We'll borrow it.
Yeah, that's true. There's
We
banks
could
for
borrow
that
it.
kind
We
of
could sell
thing.
some plasma and buy
What do they
Soup
say
Q.
in the banking world? You were telling me this. It's the rule of 6.
It's the 3-6 rule. And that's you take depositors' money and give them 3%, which is
that's not happening.
That's
anymore.
not happening. You give them 0.3%.
Yeah.
You lend the depositors money at 6.
When did we get cool with that?
Oh, dude, they're floating the idea.
Oh, here's my money. Why don't you use it and make 6% on it on the market and give me 0.3?
Well, you know, in Europe right now and Japan, they have negative interest rates. Did you know that?
No.
So if you put in $100,000,
because it's the money's so cheap at the governmental level, like
you
what's
are
up with
now
that?
paying. You're not getting any interest. You're paying to have your money in a bank. They have negative rates. They're floating that idea here. It's basically they're saying the idea of putting money and holding it in a bank as a safe investment, they're penalizing you for that. They're forcing people into the markets.
Oh my
Whatever it
gosh.
is. I mean, not
That
just the
seems
stock market, but
corrupt.
it's kind of nuts. But I mean, Trump has floated the idea here.
Well,
It's going to
I guess
come to America.
I guess what's really happening is that's already happening because I pay a fee to own a checking
Sure.
account that far exceeds the amount of interest I get.
Right. Well, you
by
should
a
change that.
huge. Well, I mean, yeah, I am actually. I switched from Bank of America to Capital One, but I think I want to. I don't know. It's just it's the convenience versus evil corporation problem. That's how they're going to define. I think that's how they're going to define the 21st century is the age when the lesser of two evils, like you choose between evil corporations and convenience, is basically the two options you have. You know, because the if you look at like, well, we talk about this a lot. If you look at like, okay, what would we need to do to solve America's economic issues, right? I think all we really need to do is, and I'm not saying that this is a strategy, I'm just saying this could be a potential, like if magically we could do it. What if everybody in the world, everybody in the country stopped shopping on Amazon and Walmart, right? And instead pooled all of that money and only bought things from people who live within a 100-mile radius.
That's so inconvenient.
Even if it meant significant. Oh, it's highly inconvenient. But my point is, if you only bought toilet paper from the toilet paper company that employs your cousin.
Amazon already put them out of business.
Well, I know. I'm not saying this is practical. I'm saying
if we had done this, you're saying.
If we had gone this route, it would be whatever. I mean, it's, again, I'm not saying it's practical. I'm saying it's funny because when we're like, we need small business. It's like, yeah, that ship has sailed. But at the same time, when did it sail? You know, it sailed probably like about 80 years ago or so, right? I mean, that's, I don't know, maybe a little longer. You used to drive around places. I just think about that. The irony is that there are more independent businesses in major metropolitan areas than there are in rural areas. That's the irony of it to me, is like there are more options to avoid Walmart and Amazon in Los Angeles than there are in rural Idaho. In rural Idaho, you've got Ruby Tuesdays, Chili's, and Walmart. That's it. So all the money is just getting shipped off to Wall Street. It's really a tragedy. Not that I know what they should do about it. It's just
standard of living has never been higher. You know, I mean,
that's also not true.
Well,
we're just paying rental prices. I think that you're right. We're paying subscription fees. We're moving in a direction where we literally pay subscription fees for everything. It's already kind of that way, where it's like you basically just rent your life from Walmart, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Well, that's why negative interest rates make sense, because nobody's saving money. Everybody is living off of credit unless you're extremely wealthy. I mean, of course, there are outliers, but the general concept 50 years ago was that you bought a house with $15,000 cash that you had saved up. And so then when they introduced...
Well, because the interest rate on a house was, what, 15, 20%?
In the 70s, but before that, in the 50s, say, before all that...
there was no 30-year mortgage.
There's no 30-year mortgage. You bought a house that was like 700 square foot. You might have built it yourself or assembled it yourself. You paid
from a Sears catalog.
Exactly. You paid $5,000 to $15,000 for it that you worked for a few years to make. And then you owned this thing on a little piece of property that you owned. And now we have a mortgage, as almost everybody does. We don't own shit. We own a note.
Yeah.
We own a note. And that is
a promise.
That's intentional. It's very intentional. It's intentional that housing has gone from a house costing $5,000 to $15,000 to now $200 is entry level house. You know, anywhere, even that's cheap. And you're actually, that $200,000 house is actually $450 after 30 years, at least. Come on, people, wake up, break the shackles. Wait, hold on a second. I got to pay my mortgage real quick.
Yeah, just exactly. I gotta write a rent check to my Vietnamese landlord.
Exactly.
She's very nice, but she owns my house. I definitely don't own it.
But does she even own
Nor
it?
could
Some
I.
bank owns it, right?
No, that's probably true.
Maybe she
Well,
owns
I
it.
don't
Maybe she owns it.
know. She's a pretty enterprising lady. She owns a lot of property. She's kind of a badass.
Yeah, immigrants know what to do, dude. They come over here and they just see right
Oh
through a lot of this stuff.
yeah. Well, they're like, yeah, I'll live in a little house.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll rent
Yeah,
you a
you want a
big
big
one.
one?
I'll live in a little
Great.
one though. Yeah, cool. Oh,
I'll
yeah,
cash
pay
those
me
checks.
a good exactly. I don't need 3 extra bedrooms, you dingus. I'll send this money back to my kids. They could live on
What do you
it.
think the definition of the word dingus is?
Ooh, great
My
question.
sons and I.
It's a great word. That's all I know.
You know, I heard this word from a podcast. I think this is the first time I heard it. Podcast called Roderick on the Line that
Oh, it's a good
friend of the show
podcast.
really likes, and the guy John Roderick always said I heard him say it a couple times, and it just totally stuck in my head, and I started using it to refer to basically anything. And my sons and I were talking the other day, and they said it means it's a euphemism for a body part on a man.
A phallic body
Yeah,
part.
and I was like, I don't know. I mean, it could be, but it also just means anything. And they were like, no, that's what it means. What do you think it means?
What do I think it means?
If you had to define it.
Well, I'm a big fan of malleable language.
Do you think this has a definition in the dictionary? Let me ask you that first.
Oh, is it in the dictionary? No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay, it is.
It is in the dictionary.
It is. It's a real word.
No.
Yes, it is.
What is it in the dictionary?
Well, what do you think if you had to guess? Now that you know it's in the dictionary.
Oh, something synonymous to like a similar definition to like a dork, you know, like a fool.
It is a word that's I'm reading the definition.
It is.
It's a word that's used to refer to something one cannot or does not wish to name specifically.
Ah, the perfect utility word.
It's pretty good.
That's a great utility word.
I
See,
didn't know that. I mean, that's how the guy Roderick was using it.
I was gonna make up a new definition to make it that useful,
Sure.
but it's already that useful.
Pretty useful.
Dang.
It comes from Dutch Afrikaans, and it means thing. Ding means thing in Dutch. There you go.
Don't forget the S. You know, John, I've been learning some Chinese.
Uh-oh.
Some Mandarin. Do you want to hear me try to say this is gonna be so bad. Oh, do you want to hear me say I am American in Chinese?
Is this going to get us canceled?
No.
Okay. Well, then yes.
This is a respectful act.
All right. I was just thinking about what's his face from SNL.
What did what's his face?
That's why that guy Shane Gillis. That's why he didn't get on SNL, because he did like a bad Chinese accent / some racial stuff around it.
Oh my goodness! I think that's so not that worth punishing people for.
He got the boot, man. I mean, I don't know.
It's,
he might be maybe it was
how-
worse than that, but
If anybody speaks Chinese, feel free to write in with some pronunciation tips. This is I think how I say. I'm trying to remember it.
is it Chinese or is it Mandarin?
Oh, it's Mandarin, but again, people feel free to write in and tell me I'm wrong. But when I hear Chinese, like, do you speak Chinese? I'm pretty sure most people are referring to Mandarin. I think Cantonese is a minority language relatively. Like I mean, let's see how many people speak Mandarin.
Oh boy, see, that's gonna get us canceled. 68 million Cantonese speakers.
68 million? Oh yeah, it's a baby language compared to Mandarin.
Mandarin's got to have like 1 billion, right?
Oh, billions, multiple.
No,
I would
really.
think. Yeah. Oh, 917 million. I guess I forgot how. Either way, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
As the Italians would say, that's a lot of
boy.
people. You want to hear how you say "I'm American"? I think I got it. I think I remember.
Yep, let's hear it.
我是美国人，人。That's the Spanish version. 我是 that's I that 我是 is I am.
Yeah. Which one
I
of those?
give
How
up.
many I don't know if you're repeating the same thing over and over, like if you're like correcting yourself as you go,
Oh
or is
no, it's
that
kind
how
of, okay.
you
I'll try
say
again. 我是美国人. I can't do it. It is so hard to even just say the most basic words.
Yeah,
I tried.
Well,
I'm gonna learn some though, because there's so many Mandarin speakers around here. There's a lot of.
they don't need one
there's
more.
A lot.
They do not need one more.
But I want to be able to go get a massage.
They all
And
speak English.
Sometimes
Somebody
you'd be
there
surprised,
speaks
John.
English.
No, but John, you'd be surprised how many people in my neighborhood don't speak a lick of English.
But if you go to a pedicure or manicure place, they either speak English, or when you take your shoes off and sit in that chair, you don't need to speak Chinese.
That's true, but I would like to.
Yeah, but they don't want to talk to you in bad Chinese. They want
How do you know
they want to gossip about you. They want to talk shit about you while you sit there.
They might be happy that I tried. They might feel, maybe, I don't know, whatever. I should just finish learning Spanish. Okay, so really quick though, I'm fascinated by Asia though.
Sure.
In general,
Yeah.
I just, the whole effing continent is just absolutely fascinating to me. One, because it's just so big, and it's so old, and I mean, we've talked about this, but our civilizations really didn't interact at all until like 200 years ago in a meaning, at least west and east. Like, I mean, there were interactions, but not like normal people.
Right.
Merchants would interact, but there was not meaningful exchange of things until like a few hundred years ago. It's insane. I mean, let's get into what okay, what were people like, I don't know, like what were people doing in 1400? They definitely weren't
clue,
like just
right?
going on weekend trips to China. They weren't, I don't know, there was some sort of trade going on, but I have a feeling it was like 0.000001% of the population.
Well, it takes like months back then to even get a letter. Like I was just listening to this thing about Napoleon.
Nobody was learning Chinese for fun. You can't type into Google Translate, 我是 That's how you say I am.
What? That is kind of bizarre how different that language is.
Ta shi han. That's I am Korean. Goro ran is like I am a Korean person. Very strange. No, you are a Korean person. Ta shi. It's so strange. It's so interesting to me because there's nothing similar about it. I mean, nothing.
Right. Yeah.
There's not even like the words you get lucky with, It's just
there's no
so
cognates.
different.
Yeah, there's nothing.
No.
Well, maybe there are. I don't know, but
I just think it's fascinating that I can't even pronounce the words with the pronunciation. I looked it up. I'm not any closer with the word in a transliteration in front of me. I'm still not any closer to saying it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. So anyway, John, we've got a number of topics we could touch on.
Sorry. So I saw this on Reddit today, and every time I see something on Reddit, I'm like, about a healthy dose of skepticism. But I happen to see this. Basically, it's a giant rock, like an improbably perched rock in the middle of the desert, and it's huge. It's giant, and it's
what's it? Where?
It's in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Just in the middle of nowhere in this desert, and it's cut into this giant rock is just split right down the middle.
It's cut or split?
Well, there's debate, of course, but it looks like somebody just like with a very powerful laser just went like right down the middle of it. A perfectly straight, it's a really like nice straight line in this super thick rock. And if you Google it, like if you actually look at the articles, there's no Wikipedia page or anything. It's all the articles are like, it looks like it was cut by a laser, but here's why it wasn't. And then they put,
because they can tell like with like patterns and stuff.
Because lasers didn't exist when this thing, was there.
Right.
So that can't be it. So then they're like, well,
or did they?
Well,
though?
Maybe some like another rock grew. This is the theory I read. Another rock grew up into that gap and then dissipated and disappeared. And you look at that and you're like, no,
No,
that's
that didn't
not what
happen.
happened.
Okay, so I just Googled, I think I found it. I Googled laser cut rock Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Yeah, that looks insane. But you can tell, wow. Okay. Oh, shit, there's like carvings on it and stuff.
Mm-hmm, yeah. You know what it immediately made me think of, though? And now there's another thing to Google. So when I saw this, I thought of this story in the Bible of Moses. So Moses has got all the Israelites, and they're out in the wilderness. You know, they're in the wilderness for 40 years. They can't go into Canaan yet for whatever reason, and they're because of rebellion or some shit. So they're all out in the desert. They've got nothing to drink. They've been eating manna from heaven, and the people are getting pissed off. And God's like, okay, Moses, go to this giant rock and hit it with your staff.
No, he says talk to it.
He tells him to hit it. He tells him to hit it one time with his staff. And Moses, in frustration, according to the Bible, this is also kind of a contentious verse, but in the Bible, Moses he yells at the people. He's like, is this what you want? Like, fine, I'll do it, you dumbasses. And he hits the rock twice. He was told to hit it one time. He bangs it twice, supposedly, and it splits right down the middle, this giant rock, and water comes out of it. Enough water to give the people of Israel water to drink. There's thousands and thousands of people. So it's a miracle, But then Moses, because of this, because he hit the rock not one time, but two times, he and his family were not allowed to go into the promised land. And in fact, they stayed, and Moses dies outside of the promised land while the Israelites go in after he dies. So I thought of that, and crazy. I Googled it, and there's another rock. It's called Meribah, Meribah, split rock, and people claim that this is actually the rock that Moses split into. And I looked at it; it looks really cool. It looks slightly different than the other one, but
what? Yeah, look at that.
But there's an entire...
Dude, there's so much cool shit out there.
Well, there's an entire page, though, debunking this. It's a formation that's fascinating, but this guy, some nerd, figured out, based on the Bible, where the Israelites actually were, and then locates this rock and is like, it's impossible that this is that rock. It's like, all right, man, cool it.
Interesting. I mean, I always thought of that. Here's how I've always read that story, because I could have sworn he says talk to the rock.
I'm not sure.
Because, okay, that's fine. I always thought he was supposed to talk to the rock, and I kind of thought it was a metaphor of sorts for, like, he's a prophet, and he's supposed to talk to the people, right? And then he gets angry, and he kind of hits him over the head with, like, one too many laws. Like, one too many ceremonial laws, because Moses was a little bit of a control freak. I always sort of, like, thought maybe there's, like, a little bit of a metaphor there. So,
wait, hold up. I just looked it up.
Okay.
The people of Israel are complaining. This is the beginning of, this is in Numbers 20. The people are pissed. They're like, come on, we should have just died in Egypt. At least we had food and water, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing here to drink. The Lord said to Moses, take your staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the people, speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its water. You will bring water out of the rock for the community, so they and their livestock can drink. So you're right. He did tell him to speak to it. So Moses took his staff from the Lord's. But this is another weird thing about this dude, that, Moses, when he's leaving Egypt, he has this showdown with the Pharaoh and his court guys, And there's this, like, really fascinating, the plagues are fascinating, but there's this whole sequence where Moses and Aaron are there in front of Pharaoh, and they're doing these tricks, basically. And one of them, he throws his, like, he does all kinds of weird shit. Like, he puts his hand in his cloak and pulls it out, and it's leprous. And then he puts it back in and takes it out. And it's, yeah.
Is that in the Bible or like...
So he does that. Cool. But then the famous one, of course, is Moses takes his staff, he throws it on the ground, and it turns into a snake, right? And then the Pharaoh, he does that. And the Pharaoh's like, yeah, big deal. Watch this. He brings his magicians in. They do the exact same thing. But then Moses's staff snake eats their snakes, I mean, it's just bizarre, but
Oh,
the
that's
staff
right.
has
Yeah. I
like
forgot about that.
actual power. And in fact, I didn't even think of this till I just read this verse, but listen to the way this is phrased. Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence just as he had committed. Like this thing, the staff has like power. Is it Moses? It's one of the, I think it's Moses. One of the early, he holds his staff up
Yeah,
and
and
they're
he
winning
holds
the
the
battle,
staff
but his
up. Oh
arms
my
get tired. He
goodness.
lowers the staff and they start to lose. I mean,
Yeah.
there's all this weird kind of nuts
Right.
stuff in the
It's
Old Testament.
fascinating. Which here's the thing, which I think it's funny because I was talking about the story of Jonah recently, and that's another one of those stories where people get hung up on the details, and I'm like,
Mm,
who cares about the details? Because to me, I'm like, if the staff is what we read it as literally, that's fine. But also, if we know anything about historical things like this, a lot of what they were writing was poetry, and so it's also interesting to read it in the context of like
mm,
what might they have been saying about the power that Moses wielded and using the staff as a metaphor potentially, or maybe the staff was powerful. I don't know, but my point is like I think it's crazy that we sometimes sort of miss. I think we can miss the forest for the trees a little bit.
mm.
No pun intended. That's a deep pun with the staff made of wood. So, well, speaking of okay, John, this brings us back to I was going to say earlier, and then Kelly came home. I had to take a break, but I was going to say earlier there are a couple other topics that I'm curious about, and in a weird way, I think these might be related. Okay, I was watching a video. About
Sure.
quantum field theory. How much do you know about quantum field theory?
About as much as any other dummy who's watched,
A couple of
half a
things.
YouTube
Yeah,
video.
exactly.
Yeah. So nothing.
Okay, tell me if this rings true to what you understand about quantum field theory. This was a big revelation for me. Because we talked about this a little bit in our last podcast, and I feel like I need to correct a couple things I said, not because I was like totally wrong, but because there's just more better information
Sure.
out
Well, we're
there.
also shooting from the hip here.
For sure, which I'm fine with. You know, idle speculation is one of my favorite things to do. I don't care.
I'm gonna
So,
put that on your tombstone.
yeah, exactly. A master of idle speculation that leads to nothing useful. So, but what I hear from this Cambridge professor is that one of the main theories behind quantum field theory is one of the main takeaways, and this is becoming pretty much accepted fact, is that there is no such thing as a particle. Like there are that because so what we're taught and apparent according to several people I've now read about, they basically say, well, we're taught by effectively by lazy scientists, we're taught that atoms are mostly empty space, right?
Right.
We've all heard that.
Yep.
What they're saying is that is not true because there's a couple things that kind of debunk that. First, and possibly most importantly, electrons, not everybody, I think a lot of people are kind of familiar with the idea of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which is basically like you can accurately measure either velocity or location. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like you can't be right about where something is and how fast it's moving, and so
Right.
you're kind of like, it's kind of like trying to take a picture of a three-dimensional of like a movie. It's like you're only getting
Here's the issue with that though, and the uncertainty principle
yeah
has been used improperly, and I'm no expert, of course, but essentially what that actually boils down to is that by measuring something, with our tools that we have right now, the act of measuring the thing changes it.
Yes.
So we can measure
entanglement is the
well.
I believe one of the. Is that different?
That's a different thing. So basically, this is like you're measuring light in a box, but you have to flash a flash bulb to measure that light.
Right.
And so that act of measuring it in that way affects how these things move. So what we've been able to do is we can say where something is or, how fast it's moving, but not the same thing at the same time. And by measuring it, we affect that thing.
Right.
And people use this for all sorts of like I think, kind of woo-woo shit where it's like,
Right.
by thinking about something, we change it. And it's like, no, 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 no. It's way
Yeah.
more practical than
No.
that. And there
Right. I
will
don't
be a
think.
time when that will not be the case, where
Well,
we will be able to measure stuff without affecting it.
right. I think that's true, but I also think it is similar to put it in another context. You can't really observe a tiger in the wild without affecting the tiger's behavior.
Sure.
Part of what he's saying, though, is that we've been told that atoms are effectively empty space, but that's because what we've been told is that an atom has electrons, which are like little dots, right?
Yep.
We're told that electrons are little dots that spin around a nucleus. Right. And what he's saying is it's actually a wave, it's a field that surrounds the nucleus so fast, and it's not just surrounds it, but fills the space around the nucleus.
Like a magnetic field.
Like a magnetic field. So that's part of the basis for quantum field theory. But there are different versions of how quantum field theory could be perceived, how quantum fields, which the way he was saying is basically, oh man, it's fascinating. Just look it up and get the real, if you're listening, get the real thing from somebody who knows what they're saying. But my understanding of it is basically, I almost think of it as like there's everything is connected, and what he's saying is that even protons and quarks and electrons, they're concentrations of mass and energy within a larger field. And so it's kind of like you're looking at a whole graph and the line is going, but then there are certain parts of it that have a higher value almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Which to me is fascinating because that explains certain seemingly inexplainable things, which again, they're, scientists be like, well, don't get too woo-woo with it, which I understand. But part of what I'm saying is like, it also makes sense that if everything is connected, which we've effectively found out that it is, it's kind of like, well, what if it really is all connected? What if, we were talking about this last time, like when we tried to transmit a color. What if, because dude, the other thing I was learning about neutrinos, that's some crazy shit, dude. Like since we've started this podcast, trillions of neutrinos have passed through my body and done nothing to me. They're so small and they're moving so fast that literally, and from every direction, they've come from under the earth, through the earth, as well as above me and from the side. There's like, what is that? That's crazy.
So cosmic rays, it's another type of that, or that's a type of cosmic rays, but they're cosmic rays flying through everything constantly, right? So you can actually use this. There's a thing called a muon, M-U-O-N rather, and you can and you can use this to actually image anything. So think about it. You set up a photographic plate that when these muons hit them, it strikes it and makes just like a photon on photographic paper, right? So dude, in Fukushima, I just read this last night, Fukushima, where they had the nuclear meltdown, they do not know where the radioactive core of some of these things are inside of the structure, right? Because they got damaged. They had flood water come in and knock these cores loose. So in a couple of the buildings, they don't know where the cores are. And they can't go in. They can't even send robots in because they immediately malfunction, right? So what they've done,
Why are we building these things?
What they're proposing to do.
What are we thinking? Oh my gosh.
What they're proposing to do and will work in theory is they set up basically photographic paper on the side of this building that will capture the muons that are flying through space and going through this building, through this core. They'll hit this paper and they can get a 2D image of the interior of the building using this method.
Wow.
And they're probably going to do this.
That's fascinating. Will the muons, does the radioactive material emit muons,
no,
or does the radioactive
totally
material
separate.
affects the muons?
Neither. Well, I mean, they might affect it. I'm not sure about that. But you can do this anywhere on Earth. It has nothing to do with the actual building, and everything to do with the fact that cosmic rays are flying through us and everything constantly.
It's crazy. Have you seen the what? Oh, dude, the sort of the map of the universe based on like leftover radio waves or
Mm,
microwaves.
maybe.
It's basically
Oh, is it background radiation? There's
yes, background radio. Like, dude, I want to. Okay. Oh my gosh, cosmic microwave background map.
mm,
It's so crazy, dude. Okay, electromagnetic radiation as a remnant from the early stage of the universe, also known as relic radiation. This faint cosmic background radiation is filling all space. It's an important source of data of the early universe because it's the oldest electromagnetic radiation in the universe, dating to the epoch of recombination.
hmm.
With an optical telescope, I mean,
This
the
is
stuff we're discovering is just
Well, you know what's
absolutely
interesting
insane.
about background radiation is it was discovered not that long ago, and in fact, some people, like Tesla, Nikola Tesla, inventor of AC electric, and the like the most
Right, right,
motors that we use with a dynamo in it. He invented that. He was positive that he was interacting with aliens from Mars or Saturn because he had created these really fine-tuned antennas that were picking up background radiation, and that was not a known thing at the time. So he
wow,
was getting these weird like frequencies coming through at this constant rate, and he's like, what the hell is this? Like he thought it was like SETI. You know how we're sending out messages?
right,
SETI is
right,
the search
right,
for extraterrestrial intelligence, and basically they have these giant satellite dishes that are pulsing out signals to aliens to say like, hey, we're
right,
here, we're on Earth, what's up?
right.
And Tesla in 1910 to 1920 was getting these signals from space that he was positive were aliens trying to talk to us.
Hmm.
And later, some scientist was like, no, that's actually background radiation. And then they used that
Wow.
to map, using radiation, map the history of the universe. Pretty wild.
Oh, it's so freaking cool.
But dude, the
Dude,
thing
do
is,
you
this could be all horseshit. It could actually be I mean, for
You're such a cynic. John, just be happy
I
about
mean,
it.
I think it's
Just be
fascinating,
excited.
and there you can watch some like there's some really old no bullshit science videos from like
Oh
Toronto. There's this
yeah.
guy Lathwaite who does really great physics videos, and there's another guy who from Toronto who does these excellent. They're like from the 70s, and they're
Right.
just so simple, and they don't treat you like you're stupid, and he just
Right.
tells you information like this is how
Right.
we figured out the exact rotation of the Earth, and he just breaks it down.
That's
It's
cool.
fascinating. It's hard to be skeptical in the face of that because this guy has no agenda. He's just some nerd
Right.
who learned this
Well,
stuff.
that's the guys that I've been finding lately are basically saying, and they're kind of outsiders. I didn't realize how small of a, the quantum physics is a huge field,
Mm.
right?
It's
But
actually very tiny.
there
Goo goo
well,
gooks.
no, but there no, but there's a lot of people as basically the way it was explained when I saw it a couple different ways is we use quantum physics and lasers, we use it in all sorts of stuff that we use every day, right? Computers, computing, whatever. Um mm,
I was riding in the car with my sons the other day, and I just looked over at him and I was like, we could see the moon up in the sky. It was like 11 in the morning, but you could see the moon really big. And I was like, it's crazy to think about, but we're in a car going 40, 50, 60 miles an hour on a giant rock that is hurtling through space and spinning. And my kid was like, yeah, and not just that, but the sun is moving around in the galaxy and that's spinning around this universe. And I was like, yeah, that is absolutely
I
preposterous.
mean, dude, I was talking to my friend's 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and I was like, "Hey, Louie." I was like, "Did you know that we're on a giant spaceship flying through space?" And he was like, "That's crazy." Like he just
For
couldn't
sure.
he knows how crazy that
It's
is. Like
counterintuitive.
it's very very strange. I actually think all the time I look up at the moon and I think that is a rock. It's a giant rock that is in the sky.
Yep.
It's a giant rock and it's just floating up there. Or actually out there. Isn't that oh
It's
man,
wild.
it's so
But
fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
if it doesn't everything is about this is what I explained to my son was we're in a car going 40 miles an hour, let's say, and it was at a relatively constant rate of speed. And I
Mhm.
said to him, I was like, we're moving really fast. Like you could not run this fast, but you're sitting here in this car and it feels like you're not moving at all, really. And I have my
Mhm.
phone in my hand and I kind of tossed it up in the air. And I was like, it's moving 40 miles an hour right now, but because the frame of reference is
Right.
consistent, it feels like we're not moving at all.
Right.
And if we were to suddenly accelerate or decelerate rapidly, then you would definitely feel it. So
Right.
it's really the
Right.
change that you feel. So the fact that we're
Which
hurtling through
is
space at X amount of miles an hour doesn't matter as long as it doesn't change.
well, and that was part of the point of this guy Sean Connor that I was listening to, is he was saying it's everything is
Sure.
relative in that sense, because the electrons spinning around the protons that make up every particle, quote unquote, although particles apparently don't exist in our body, is moving at an absolutely insane
Right.
pace. And they are actually not purely moving around the protons, they're actually part of a broader field, and they have a quantum value within that field, which means their actual relationship is to a field that stretches through the entire universe rather than strictly to a set of protons that makes up the carbon atoms in my body. So that is crazy in and of itself. But part of what he was saying is like all of that is only relevant in certain contexts because it's all moving relative to
Mm.
me. Like somehow it stays together. And that's actually where a lot of this, it doesn't break down, but the competing theories happen, is basically like, okay, cool. All that's great. We actually have science to back all of that up now. But we still don't know how I can knock my fist
Right.
on a table. We don't know why I can see a table. And so there are different theories. There's like 4, and of course I don't remember them all, but one is basically that given enough time and chance, that like any given electron will condense into it's, I mean, dude, there's so much bizarreness to the whole thing. There's the other one that basically is the many worlds theory, which we've talked about
Yeah.
a little bit. None of it makes that much sense to me, but part of what I like about it is that the smartest, coolest, most interesting, most open-minded people in the world are agreeing, yeah, we really don't understand it. And basically what he's saying is, when it comes to quantum physics, this is kind of what I was saying earlier, it is a very tiny field of people who are actually using quantum theory to explore
Mm.
cosmology and ontology, which is the nature of being. It's a massive field in terms of people who are using it for quantum computing, trying to come up with quantum computers. People who are doing condensed matter theory, people who are doing like, nuclear physics, lasers, all that kind of stuff. But he's saying there's actually this one scientist, John Connor, said there's probably fewer than 100 people who are really studying quantum theory in the context of what is reality in the whole world, because and his point was that that number is so small because this is such a specialized field that at the end of the day you are
Sure.
reliant on research money, and no one, the establishment isn't particularly interested in these questions because you can't really make money on it. They're like, I'll put tons of money up to try to build a quantum computer, but I'm not really that interested. You can go
Mm-hmm.
study philosophy if you want to, you know. But I also didn't realize, the Large Hadron Collider. Part of what's interesting about that is it's kind of like done. Like they discovered the Higgs boson or whatever, and they've done a couple other things, but they're like, we haven't discovered anything new in years. They've kind of hit a brick wall. And some people are, kind of like saying that's not, but again, it's the most forward thinking people who are like, yeah, we actually might be kind of hitting the furthest limits of the theories that we have, and we don't have good experiment, like no one's figured out how to test string theory, for example. Like a lot of scientists are like, oh, it kind of makes sense, but no one's figured out a way to actually test it.
The theory of relativity has been consistently proven to be true as we go into frequently it's proven because of space travel, right? There have been a lot of instances, proven is probably not the right word, but it's been sort of
Right.
corroborated.
It appears to be
Right.
consistent.
And
Right.
a lot of the sort of confirmations have come through astronomy, advances in astronomy and space travel. So we get out into space and they're like, oh, the guy comes back and like his clock was off by a minute. Like, look at that. I proved, you know what I mean? That
Right.
kind of crap.
Right.
This same
But that's special
the
relativity.
same stuff. Yeah, it is. But my point is that when Einstein was making these theories, there was no real way to test a lot of this. There's not a lot of ways to test certain parts of these ideas, you know, the implications of these ideas. And later, he's proven to be like, it's pretty good theory, man. Later.
Well,
and the same thing was
right.
true for any of these ideas. We're saying now, like, oh, the quark is the smallest thing. Like, yeah, give it a couple decades, buddy.
Yeah. But I think, okay, but I think maybe I wasn't being clear, because what this guy, Sean Connor, and what this other guy, I forget what his name is, the Cambridge guy, because one of them's at Caltech, one of them's at Cambridge, that these two guys have been reading. Part of what they were saying, though,
You think
is
those guys
that...
voted for Trump? What are the chances that either of them? I guess the one can't vote for him, but a Caltech physicist?
I think really low. He seems very cool and progressive. So, but really quick. So what he was saying is not that the science is bad. What he's saying is we've made amazing corroborations of theories. But what he's specifically saying is that there haven't been any exciting new theories in a long time. He's like,
I got some theories for him.
Well, what he's saying is math-based. Like, he's like, we came up with, like, we had some big, like, sort of category-busting discoveries when we figured out what quarks were and all these up quarks, down, what, blah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, all we're really doing is providing more data to support those theories.
Right.
But what he's getting at is that basically the way he put it is most of quantum theory is this similar to gravity, right? You can use gravity without understanding how gravity works, right?
Right.
And so what he's saying is quantum physics is used constantly in all sorts of practical applications. But what he's saying, and no one's really arguing with this, this isn't like a controversial thing. Physicists are basically saying, yeah, we don't know how it works, but we are using it like a cell phone. Like, you don't know how a cell phone works. You just use it to make calls. And what they're saying is we might never understand how quantum physics works, right, on a really practical level. But right now we can use it as we can use the equations we have to make predictions within certain contexts, and that's good enough for us. And what these guys are kind of saying is, why? Like, why not ask bigger questions? Why not? Who's going to be the next Einstein who's like, I don't know if classical physics is all there is, right? No one's really done that. I mean, because again, we have multi-world, we have many worlds theory, we have, like, you know, string theory, all these things. But what I didn't understand is that there's this big division effectively between theoretical physicists and experimental physicists, because the experiments are where the money gets big, because you need to build a Hadron Collider, which is like $40 billion. And there are just certain things. But what's interesting, I think, about the whole thing is again, as we were saying this last time, like, you know, this guy Faraday back in the day, and it was cool. You know, I'm watching this lecture at Cambridge, and he's in a lecture hall, and he keeps mentioning all these major discoveries that happens. He's like, oh, by the way, that was presented to the public in this room. It's pretty wild, like the amount of history that was in that room. But he's talking about this one experiment, and like magnets. I mean, dude, magnets are crazy. The fact that it's not gravity, it's something totally different. You can take two magnets and they don't want to touch each other. Like, what is there? We still don't entirely understand. I mean, we understand how to predict how it will behave because it's highly consistent. But what we don't really understand is why the F, when you put two positive sides of a magnet together, it doesn't want to, like, it repels itself. we don't actually
Definitely, they
understand like
understand
what
that.
is the
100%.
no, we understand. No, 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 no. We
Charged
understand
particles.
what is
Positive and
happening.
it's
What's
positive
that?
and negative charge. It's not
Yeah, but we don't like. But I'm saying like there's a layer under that where it's kind of like yeah, it does the same thing every time, therefore we understand it. But like just because you throw a ball in the air and it comes back to you and you can actually even predict exactly where it's going to land and this is the guy's point. Just because we can look at like we can tell exactly where the Earth will be in a million years because of math. What he's saying is that doesn't mean we fully understand. We
well,
could
there's always
like
stuff you're not gonna
then kind
know.
of
I mean, you can go
reconstruct it.
down to we don't know if gravitons, that's how they're theorizing gravity works now. And it's like, well, yeah, we don't know if that's
Right.
real or not necessarily, but we don't know it's basically the elephants all the way down idea. Like, yeah, if you keep peeling back layers, there's going to be a point where you just don't know. And
Exactly.
but
I mean, that's what we were talking about last time. But that's so fucking cool.
yeah, but I mean, there is a lot that we do know. I mean, and there's a lot that we're
Oh yeah.
doing. I watched a video recently. Ray Kurzweil, who's a
No,
futurist.
just to be really clear, really quick, I want to hear that. But really, I'm not saying we don't know anything. What I'm saying is, what is cool to me is when you hear the leading scientists in the field say we're not sure.
Sure.
I
Oh
just
yeah,
love
totally.
that. I
And
love
when
when that
they say they
happens.
do know, I just assume they're lying or wrong. Um,
See,
I heard I just have to play
sure,
devil's advocate
sure,
to any position I hear. Um, I
of
heard Ray
course.
Kurzweil saying he was holding up a rock in this video, and he's like, "There's more
Mm-hmm.
computational power in this rock than all computers man has ever created combined." And I was like,
Mm,
"What?" And so he's talking about this idea called computronium, and basically the idea is that
mm,
one day, distant man will be able to manipulate the particles inside of a hunk of rock. And because there's trillions upon
mm,
trillions of particles in that rock, if we can order them in such a way, we could turn that rock into a quantum computer. And quantum computing is not the right word,
mm,
but a very powerful computer just by reorganizing the
mm-hmm.
atoms inside of this rock. And it's like
Mm.
I don't know if that's exactly what will happen, but yeah, I mean, you're talking a million years from now, if humans haven't blown themselves up,
Yeah.
we'll be doing some wild shit.
Well, to bring it full circle, even to that rock that looks like it's
Mm,
gotten cut by a laser, right? It's four
could be a
thousand years
giant
old.
computer.
So there's some theories. Well, maybe, but there's some theories about different things. Like, for instance, I'm not going to go into this one right now, but some people think that the pyramids were actually like power
Mm,
generators of some kind, right? There's another thing that I saw, which supports actually. I need to find this article and send it to you, but the premise of they've figured out that they can use sound to make things levitate. So far, the only really way we know how to make things levitate is with like
sure.
blowing air and magnets. They've figured out that the right amount of the right is it
Mm,
hertz, the right vibrations shot at each other cancel each other out and cause things to levitate. It's very interesting. There's stuff like that we're figuring out. There's which you and I've talked about at great length about like different ways that things
sure.
could have been built and whatnot. Also, though, speaking of rocks being cut by
I would
lasers,
hold up though
there are
about this
some
levitation
people.
thing. I've
There's
heard this before,
yeah,
and in fact, there's a
right.
place we may have talked about it, but there's a place called what is it called Coral Castle in Florida, and this
Mm-hmm.
guy, this weirdo, in the like I don't know early 1900s, built this pretty impressive house out of incredibly heavy coral blocks, basically. And he
Mm-hmm.
claims that he did it using what they call harmonic levitation, which is he would make a sound at a certain frequency that would move rock off the ground. I think is bullshit personally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm inclined to think that, and in fact, about this guy, people said they saw cranes and stuff at the guy's place, but that could be bullshit too.
Well,
But
there are
here's the
some
thing:
legit people. Okay, go ahead.
if this is real, if you could move something even
Well, they're talking at this point. This experiment is like beads the size of like a ball bearing.
right,
Exactly. Right.
exactly. Of course. So then theoretically, I've seen stuff like that, but I mean, if you put fluid on a
Sure.
speaker, it'll
Sure.
move. You know what I mean?
But
Even if it's suspended because of the
sure.
air pressure changes. So I'm just a little skeptical because if you could do this there are so many nerds and weirdos out there who are almost
Mhm.
certainly trying this, you would have videos of this almost certainly, of a guy levitating a lead block with it
Right.
like,
If he could figure it out, why couldn't other people figure it out? I think that's very fair.
it's yeah.
N-
And if these ancient people, if it was something as
mhm.
simple as that, where it's like they just
But
got
John,
together. I
what
mean,
if
think
but
about the
we
story of
sure.
Joshua and Jericho. That's how they
Right.
brought those
But
walls
let's
down,
sure.
with a
But
frequency.
what if back to this though. We talked about this last time. What if okay, the legends are mostly fake, but what if there is science that was lost, and in part it was lost because it was highly controlled because it was extremely powerful, just like nuclear physics.
Sure.
We don't tell everyone how to build nuclear
Right.
reactors. In fact, most people who try to do it, we topple their governments with the CIA. So it's kind of like, yeah, I could see. Okay, let me get back to the laser cut thing. Okay, because I don't know enough about this levitation thing to get into an argument
Mm.
about it. I was just mentioning,
Well, it is interesting. People should look it up. No, it's not an argument, but it's like it is one of those things because there's there's different schools of thought about
right,
even ancient stuff, right? So people want to put a simple,
right,
practical thing that any human
right,
theoretically could do,
right,
make a sound that moves stuff. And it's like, no, I don't think so. I think
yeah,
they're much smarter than that because people that would be a legacy that would be easy to continue. Somebody could
right, right.
accidentally figure this out, and it hasn't happened. We haven't seen it anywhere else.
Okay, but here's something that I think is more scientific, perhaps, than kind of the woo woo stuff that we're talking about. There's some theories that part of the way that the pre-Inca people cut the blocks that they use, these huge blocks, we
Mm,
still don't know how they moved them, but there are some theories that part of the reason
mhm.
that part of the way that they cut them was effectively with lasers, and that basically what they would do is there are these legends and blah 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 that I don't know enough about to try to recite.
People should look up
Oh, they're
these stones though to get, because
fascinating.
this is not like a big brick. It's
No,
like
it's
a
like a
house.
house-size block of granite that is cut within 1/100th of an inch of accuracy, and then, like, in a weird kind of, like, curvy pattern and slides together
Mhm.
perfectly with another one. And, okay, the one of the theories of how they cut these rocks is actually by creating, effectively lasers, because there are these places that look like they would have held these giant discs, right? And there's a lot of
Mm.
imagery of this, and the idea is that perhaps they basically figured out how to sheesh,
Mm.
my science,
Yeah.
but they basically made these huge golden discs that
Mhm.
perfectly captured rays of the sun and targeted them and maybe bounced multiple times and basically focused the light, which is basically all a laser does, is use mirrors, and I don't know exactly how it works, but basically that they did that. And it kind of makes a little sense because there are these legends of, like, these like big gold bowls that would like be, stolen and stuff like that. And you can imagine how, like, there's a lot of science and technology to create the exact right bowl with exactly the right degrees of sort of the concave nature of it and all that kind of stuff. I'm fascinated by all of that though, and I think it seems primitive, but how much more primitive is that than a laser that we have? It's just smaller, you know what I mean?
Well, I think also what happens, dude, if you go to Egypt and you look at the sarcophagus stuff there, right? They
Mhm.
people added things later to objects, right? And it's
Right.
almost
Well, they would carve stuff onto
yeah, and they would try to
it's like
yeah, they
graffiti is
graffiti
what I've
stuff,
heard
but
it
they would
compared
also
to.
try
Yeah.
to mimic some of this. Even in Inca, you see this, where they try to
Mm,
mimic this older,
right.
obviously older stonework, and they do a pretty not great job of it. But it's almost like they're paying homage to it. We do this now. People
Mhm.
in New York and Astoria, Queens, Greek people love to do this. They'll put up these shitty plaster columns. It's like an homage to
Yeah.
the actual
Or
master works that are in Greece. And I think a lot of
right.
times, even with those discs, like obviously gold will melt way earlier than a stone would. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think what these people may have
Right,
been
right.
doing is looking at that and saying, like, how the fuck do you think they did that? Maybe they did this.
Mm,
Like, let's build some shit.
interesting.
I think though that this
You know what made
sort
me
of stuff,
think about this though
if
the other day
real,
though, John?
is so
Yeah.
beyond our comprehension that
Right.
we're not.
Well,
It's
we talk a lot about analog technology.
sure.
and in some ways, I think a lot of this, like, I mean, it's just so crazy. I want to talk to more experts about it because the pyramids, they're just so big. They're so big, and if you, everybody should Google the chamber, the stones above the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. I don't know how much these things weigh, but it's like 70 tons. I mean, it's just, it's impossible how much these things weigh. And they're suspended like 200 feet in the air. And Graham Hancock, who I really like, who's this kind of, archaeologist, he's like, okay, people are like, well, they used a big ramp. And he's like, well, what did they build a ramp out of, right? What kind of ramp can support a 70-ton rock? Not many kinds of ramps, right? The kinds of ramps that look a lot like the pyramids. But how did that? It's like you need a crane to build a crane. Like, what ramp? And he's like, oh, and by the way, physics tells us that, like, moving something that big at more than like a 10-degree slope isn't really possible with like normal leverage, right? So it's a mystery. That's all it is. Like, it's just a mystery, because if the ramp was long enough to be smaller than 10 degrees of the slope or whatever, to make it fit within our physics rules, the ramp would be like 10 miles long or something ridiculous like that. Like an impossibly long ramp that doesn't actually make, and again, it would have to be made out of granite, because if you make it out of sand and logs, you're putting a 70-ton boulder on it. It's going to collapse. So it's like there's this weird elephants all the way down thing again that we just hit so many of those. And I love when science, I don't know, dude, in a way I feel like we're hitting an age where science is catching up to philosophy in a way that is exciting, because what we're realizing is it's all kind of impossible. Like, the more we look at the body, the more we realize the human body is seems impossible. Like, we understand more about how it works, and then we just get more confused. And the more we understand about space, the more confused we get. And
do you think there's a hypothetical time, though, when there will be no confusion? Like, just take the body because it's easier. Like, the human body, the brain is a kind of a mystery, right? We understand a lot of how the body works, and we can do like pretty amazing things with the technology and medical resources that we have, if you can afford to get that.
But I mean, but really quick, let's take one example. Like, the most cutting edge sort of biological, like, medicine that's happening right now is stem cell research, right? They're taking placenta stem cells.
I mean, I think we're way past that.
I mean, that's like
20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, but it's just becoming accessible. Like, there's like 10 doctors in the country that'll inject stem cells into you. It's not.
I mean,
normal.
It's not. Yeah, it's definitely not as like ubiquitous as aspirin, but it's not. It's pretty. Yeah, I mean, there's a place in Chattanooga that does it, I'm sure. For sure.
Maybe.
You're talking about shooting stem cells? I mean, stem cell, dude, when you have a baby, you go to the doctor, they ask if you want to keep the cord. This is since my first son. That was over 10 years ago.
But I'm talking about like body part regeneration, like stuff that the body does naturally is still very mysterious to us. What I'm really trying to say with stem cells, though, John, is it's not that we can't. It's like the black box. It's like the cell phone. We can capture stem cells and we can redeploy them with mixed results. But what we don't really understand is exactly, we can't recreate.
Right. Well, we will be able to. Do you think we will be able
to make our own? No. Oh, eventually, yeah. So to answer your question, yes, I think there's probably a time. Joe Rogan talks about this, like, where there's like probably a time where computers will be so powerful that they can effectively just try anything. Right.
We're getting close to that.
But that also brings back the question of, I mean, we're kind of close, but like, it also brings back the question, will we survive through that? Like, what might happen first? And it's kind of like, I always hated playing, like Age of Empires, because as soon as I have a massive empire, the game's over.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's how it's going to be. It's like that seems to be the case. I mean, that's how the last
Don't you
things
think
in
okay,
the
so
last sort of epoch seems to
the
have ended.
singularity is coming, if it hasn't it's happened in some ways.
Yeah, I don't know though about the whole like we've talked about this. I just don't know if I believe that it's possible to capture consciousness in a computer.
Well, I don't know about that, but the singularity being just the moment that at any given field, a computer is better than a human. So this has happened in chess.
Sure.
Obviously, it's happened in Go in a pretty dramatic fashion where, in fact, what was it,
Mhm.
IBM that made a computer that did not know how to play Go, and it taught itself how to play Go, and in I think a week, it beat the absolute best human every
Yeah,
single
that's
game
pretty cool.
ever.
I mean, dude, do you remember watching Watson beat Jeopardy? Like that was I remember everybody was like,
Yeah, there's definitely caveats to that.
yeah, well, because of the buzzer and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that it
The
could
buzzer, but also if you watched it, some of the answers were so stupid that it was like it did not understand some very basic, like, jokey humor, and
sure.
they actually even changed the questions to make them more straightforward so the computer would understand
Interesting.
them. I was like, that Watson thing, like, human language for computers is still kind of a
Mhm.
challenge. It's impressive, it's very impressive, I'm not trying to shit on it, but, the classical game system where a computer can beat a human at Go, which was really, really hard for computers to
Mhm.
do. And then they used a neural net and boom, this computer blew humans out of the water. I mean, and came up with game strategies that had never been thought
Mhm.
of before. And this will happen where they'll turn a medical computer on like Watson, not Watson, but in the future, in the not too distant future, and it'll tell you how to cure every disease in an
Sure.
hour. That's coming. That is coming.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it too. I mean, then the other thing is the solution to curing cancer might be wipe out all humans.
Well, or the solution, man, I'm such a conspiracy theorist. Part of the solution to curing cancer might come out of the computer and they're like looking at a piece of paper because it still prints. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how powerful this computer is, it's going to print some results out. It's going to be like, yeah, do this. And then Big Pharma is going to be like, did you see those results? Because I didn't see those. I didn't. And then the other guy's like, what results? What cure for cancer? I didn't see a cure for cancer. I just saw like some gibberish. I mean, I'm just saying, like, we invented chess. We invented chess and the computer that beats humans at chess.
Yeah.
We did both.
So
That's
we're
still
way
to
smarter.
me,
We're way better than nature.
yeah.
Better
And
than
we're also more
nature.
creative because why would a computer ever create a computer that competes at chess? Or why would they computer design chess in the first place? A computer probably wouldn't find it necessary to design chess.
I don't even know. I
You
mean,
know?
well, there's a famous story called "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream." It's a great, like, I think Harlan Ellison. It's a great space
Hmm.
story, and essentially the idea is that the AI, and this was written, a long ass time ago, like 40s,
Yeah.
50s, 1940s, 1950s. And basically, the idea is that the AI has become conscious. It has taken over the world. The humans willingly gave this thing power because they're like, solve all our problems. And it says, sure. And it kills all humans basically instantly. And it keeps about
Right.
5 people left alive to torture them forever in perpetuity, right? For the
Yeah.
crime of all humanity. Every
Oh,
crime that
wow, that's
humans have
sad.
ever done, because this computer figured out how to look back in the past, and it said humans are so fucked up
Hmm.
that it immediately wiped everybody out, but kept a few people alive to torture forever. And it's a great story. But the idea, reading it, you're sort of like, basically the way he paints this computer is that it has gone crazy from living
Mm.
forever and knowing all that it knows about the people that created it and
Mm.
why they wanted to create, just it drove the thing crazy, and it's sitting out here in nothing forever, and it's bored and it's mad, and why did you invent me? I mean, it's really wild. It's a great story. But I mean, that is
Existential angst. Even the computers
robo
have it.
angst. Yeah, I mean, it's not that far-fetched.
Well,
We're just
can
meat robots walking around.
yeah, kind of. I mean, we are, but also we write poetry and stuff,
Sure.
you know? I mean, that can I spoil before
Yeah,
we go? Can I spoil one of the greatest? It's a 4-part series, one of the greatest sci-fi series of all time, the Hyperion Cantos. Do you have any intention of reading
definitely
it?
not.
If you want to read the Hyperion Cantos, it's a big space opera and it's delightful, and it's like probably a solid 2,500
Phew.
pages worth of sci-fi. It's so great. But here's the spoiler. Okay, if you don't want it spoiled, skip ahead 30 seconds. The spoiler is that AI
Mm.
has effectively realized that it's too inefficient to run itself. So they use AI to predict the future. They use AI to do space travel and all this stuff, right? AI becomes effectively organic and like you can interact with it seamlessly and you never have any idea what you're doing. But the point is that AI gets to the point where it realizes that the most efficient method by which to compute, because obviously the computing needs of a universal AI are gigantic, right? The computers are not efficient, and so what they effectively do is it's not like the Matrix where they're using them as batteries. What they're using them is they develop a very sinister system that keeps humans alive infinitely,
Mm.
but it also, like, in this very bizarre organic way, but it also uses their brains as computers. And so it's effectively creating a true neural network, and it's leeching all of their computing power. And it's very fascinating because
Was this written before the Matrix movies?
yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's like an old book.
But see, the Matrix movies is like it's using them as batteries more, whereas this is Dan
Right.
Simmons. Yeah, first one was written in 1989, but
Gotcha.
they're using them as batteries. In this case, it's this very strange kind of. I mean, there's a million other storylines within it that make it really cool, and like
Sure.
that's not the only thing, because there's also this idea of farcasters, which is kind of this like real funky way of traveling through the universe, and ultimately farcasters are another part of how they like connect. It's kind of like the Ethernet effectively, but anyway, dude, I mean, there's some pretty cool ideas out there, John. Ideas that we should be exploring. That sounds dope. Okay, well, we should go. It's been long enough. This has been great, John, as always.
We'll leave it there.
Yeah, let's leave it there. Bye. Quick note before we go.
Oh, gee. Hey, got me.